We're learning the second Sikha on Parshas Vayakhel in Chelek Chafalev from page 244. The shir today is being learned Lila Nishmas Rabbi Yosef ben Yamin ben Rab Menashe Koltman. In Zohar von heintige Parsha wird erzählt, in the Zohar this week's Parsha, it relates the following story. As einmal, it once happened, when die Chavraye von Rab Shimon ben Yochai sind beim Gewen und gerät in Yonim von Seides HaTorah, the holy group of friends of Rab Shimon ben Yochai was sitting together, discussing matters of the secrets of Torah. Hat Rabbi gesehen, as Rabbi Yossi have maharer b'mili dalma. Rabbi Yossi was thinking of worldly matters. Hat ihm gesagt, so Rabbi says to Rabbi Yossi, Yossi come, Yossi stand up, ashlim de yuknech, you have to complete your image, the oschad chasabach, because there's one letter of your name that's now missing, because of him thinking of these worldly matters during them learning. So the Rebbe translates here. Rabbi observed, as mitzadem was Rabbi Yossi, at mahare gewen b'mili da alma, because Rabbi Yossi was thinking of worldly matters, is gewaren achesarin in zayin diyukan, there was a lack in his image or in his name. Ein eis von zayin namen chasabach, one letter of his name was missing. Then the Zohar says, what happened? Come Rabbi Yossi got up, v'chadi b'milin da iraise, and he was joyous in learning a subject of Torah. Then istaku be Rab Shimon took another look at Rabbi Yossi. Amalei, he said to him, Rabbi Yossi, hashta anshlim, now you're complete, v'diyuk nechshlim, and your image is complete. His name was completed again. When Rab Shimon had gesagt danach, a Torah, if in Pasuk, vayas es tzitzkeimer. And then Rab Shimon said, a Torah on the Pasuk of vayas tzitz. In Flog is the Sipur Tamua b'Yosef. When you look at the story, this is extremely difficult to understand. Wie kann sein, how is it possible, as Rabbi Yossi, was es gewähnt von the Gedolei HaTanoim, that a person like Rabbi Yossi, which was from the greatest of the Tanoim, gefindig sich b'misibes Rashbi v'chavraye shalai. Not only that, he was amongst the great holy friends of Rab Shimon ben Yochai and his whole holy group, by welchem hat geret Razei Torah, where they were discussing secrets of Torah. And at this time and in this place, Rabbi Yossi is thinking of worldly matters. How could this be? And if you'll find some explanation, as those was Rabbi Yossi hat mahare given b'mili d'alme, that Rabbi Yossi here thought of worldly matters is given and an eifen was his eiskalten al Torah. This was in a manner where it is allowed and okay according to Torah. Bis as zu lieb dem is recht zum mafsig sein. Dem Herren die Razei Torah was haben sich dann gerät, to the point that this is permissible even to interrupt from hearing the great secrets of Torah that they were speaking about at that time. Is schwer lidach isa. So the question becomes in the opposite. Was ist bei ihm durch dem nechse geworden an eis von seinem Namen? So then why is it that he was missing one letter of his name because of his behavior, that he was thinking of Mili da Alma while they were learning Torah? So at first glance, this could be explained based on the explanation of the Rebbe's father, which will be brought later in Siv Gimel, with the following introduction about who Rabbi Yossi was. As Rabbi Yossi is given from the Chavraye Shel Rashbi, even though as we see here, Rabbi Yossi was part of the holy group of Rab Shimon ben Yochai, generally speaking, Rashbi and his Chavraye were on the level where the Torah was their entire profession. He had no other occupation. Is Rabbe nit given al kopanim b'chol hazmanim in dem sug von noris kimet. However, Rabbi Yossi himself, though, was not in this category, at least not in all times, like the rest of the group that was just busy learning Torah with nothing else. They never interrupt from their learning to be occupied with anything else, with work, with any worldly matters. As the Gemara tells us about Rabbi Yossi as shalcha hava, which means uban la'abed eiris. Rabbi Yossi himself was a tanner. So Rabbi Yossi was part of the holy group, but at the same time, as we see, he had an occupation of a tanner. Additionally, gefindt men as Rabbi Yossi hat sich ausgewählt in tzarchi tzibur. We find in Gemara that Rabbi Yossi was occupied in taking care of matters and needs for the public, for all the people. Ledugma, as an example, what the Gemara brings, the verschiedene Takanos was eingeführt in Tzipairi. There are various different things that he instituted in the city, Tzipairi, where he lived. So now, based on this, so we can say, as the Mili the Alma, these worldly matters that Rabbi Yossi was thinking of in the middle of them learning Razei Torah, the secrets of Torah, these were matters related to things that he was busy with for the sake of the people. And therefore he interrupted for these matters in the middle of hearing these secrets of Torah. Since the halacha is that to take care of needs of the public is something that pushes off learning Torah. Und damit, with this explanation, we would also be able to explain, even though this was completely allowed and demanded from him at this time, but nevertheless, a letter was lacking from his name because of this. The fact that taking care of matters for the public pushes off one's learning is tzalib to'eles v'toivus harabim. That's because of the benefit and the need for the good of the public. However, regarding the person himself that is taking care of these matters and he's pushing off his learning of Torah, it's possible that this occupation will cause by him a certain level of a downfall. Biz as Chazal Zagin, there's the expression that Chazal tell us regarding someone that's in a position where he takes care of public matters. Hatil aleyen tzarchit zibur. If you throw upon someone the responsibility of taking care of matters for the public, v'hen kolim me'aleim, and they will just end on their own because of the hard work and the anxiety that's involved in this. This can completely distract them from what they should be focused on. So here as well, it's on one hand mutter and it's deichet talmud Torah, and that's what Rabbi Yossi did when he was thinking mili da'alma regarding tzarchit zibur. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that him as an individual is not giving up from the level that he was on if he would just be learning for himself. On v'megefind by Mordechai. We find this regarding Mordechai in the end of the Megillah. V'geret amal barucha. This was once discussed in the Sikha and Chelek Tazayim, where the Rebbe discusses this position that Mordechai took up after the Ness of Purim. As er is geblieben am Mishnah lamelech. He remained a second to the king and was busy with all kinds of things because of this. Weil sein Batel mit divrei Torah v'nichnas l'srara. The fact that he had to take away from his time of learning, and he was in this position in the government, is given l'toivas klal Yisrael. It wasn't just for himself because he wanted a position of power, but it was all for the sake and for the good of the Yidden. As mentioned before, this pushes off learning. Von deswegen, but at the same time though, by him gufe hat es gepeilt hayiride. By Mordechai himself, this brought a level, it brought him down a level. Yarad mechashivusai eitz l'chachamim. He went down from his level that he was on before and his prominence amongst the chachamim. Weil es hat bei ihm gefällt, dem ilui v'gadlus von Talmud Torah. There was a certain lack in his level of learning that he had before when he was fully dedicated just to learning. So similar over here, this explains the story with Rabbi Yossi. It was totally permissible and demanded of him at this time to be Yosek b'tzarchit zibur, but yet at the same time though, there is a certain chesaron that Rabbi observed in the fact that there was a letter missing in his name. There has been, this explanation here is euch genommen from Bir von Taten in seine Haares of Zoya of dem Sippa. It's taken from the explanation of the Rebbe's father in his comments here on the Zoya regarding the story. And the Rebbe's father says as follows: As das was Rabbi Yossi hat mahare given b'mili da'alma. The fact that Rabbi Yossi was thinking of worldly matters in the middle of the learning meint nit a hero von dvarim betelim chas v'shalom. It doesn't mean that he was thinking of just petty matters or whatever it may be, God forbid. No, this is der inyan von amal siche was a zadava gadol. Rather, he was thinking of matters which the Gemara describes, as the Rebbe will quote shortly here, the fact that a person, based on the pasuk Adam la'amal yulad, every human being is created to toil, and the Gemara there explains the toil in what. And one of the options the Gemara there says is amal siche, where a person toils in his speech or in his conversation, which will soon be explained exactly what this refers to. But this is something that's a level down from the amal of Torah when one toils in Torah. But even this amal sicha, the toil in speech, which is matters related to the world, is still a davar gadol. This is something which is very necessary and on a very high level. This subject was once explained at length in a Sikha in Chelek Tezvav in Parshas Lech Lecha. In Bir Maimah Chazal, explaining what the Gemara says, Adam la'amal yulad, Pasuk says, a person is created to toil. And on this Chazal say, Any ideya im la'amal teire, im la'amal sicha. It's unclear what kind of a toiling does the Pasuk refer to. Does it mean toiling in learning or toiling in conversation? And then the Gemara there concludes, la'amal teire nivra, that a person is created to toil, to learn. So what does this mean that the Gemara entertains the idea that the entire purpose of a person in this world is to toil in sicha, in talking or conversation, and not toiling in learning? There must be something very great about amal sicha that the Gemara says that this is something that a person would be created for. As I mentioned, from the very fact that in the Gemara, in Teres Emes, there is a step where it says that a person is created to toil in his speech, is move on as das is an aveda nihilist. This is referring not just simply when a person talks idle chatter or whatever it may be in his speech, but it's something which is very beneficial and it's something which is on a very high level. Additionally, oich leite maskana as the amal teire nivra, even in the conclusion of the Gemara, where it says that a person is created for the toiling in teire, is das nit shayvel legamri der inyan von amal sicha. The Gemara is not completely negating the first thought that it had, that a person is created for the toil of his speech. It's just that the toiling of speech, which is a very high level and a very big accomplishment, is not yet the ultimate purpose of a person's creation. And on the contrary, in order for a person to be able to reach the ultimate purpose of his creation, which is only in toiling of Teire, you must go through this step of toiling in speech as well to get to amal teire. So we see that amal sicha, even in the conclusion of the Gemara, is a very important component of a person's aveda in this world, and this is what Rabbi Yossi was thinking of here in this time when he was in the middle of learning. As I said, soon we'll see here what exactly this amal sicha consists of on a more simple level. And especially, as the Rebbe's father explains, as durach dem tut men oiv di sicha lamaila. When a person is engaged in amal sicha here in this world, so that brings about a revelation from above, the words of Hashem to come into the world, which is what? As that Eibishter zol zogin kaviyachol, the asara mamareis shebehem nivra ilam. This draws down Hashem to utter the words which brings creation into existence. Vidal Rebbe is mevayer in Tanya. As the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, as the Asara Mamaris sind ständig melubish in Olam lehishavaisai ulachyeisai ulekaimai. Constantly, every single moment, Hashem recreates and sustains and gives the vitality to the entire world through the Asara Mamaris, which is generated by the fact that Yidden here in the world do their part, the Amal Siche, the conversation, the words that draws down from above, the words of Hashem to recreate the world every single moment. And das is the Taich from Mili da Alma. This is what the Zohar means when it says that Rabbi Yossi was in the middle of learning, thinking of worldly matters. It doesn't just simply mean worldly, mundane matters. Rather, it means the Asara Mamaris was an embeide o melubish neilam. That Rabbi Yossi was thinking of subjects which are related to this level of Amal Siche that brings down the revelation of Hashem's words that relate to creation, creating the world. And are referred to in the Zohar, the Asara Mamaris, which are related to creation, are referred to in the Zohar as mundane matters, where Hashem comes down to create the world. In Aveda Isius Haistas, to bring this down on a more simple level regarding our connection and our service to Hashem, what does the concept of Amal Siche represent? Mahara b'mili dalma, Amal Siche. So when it says that Rabbi Yossi was thinking of worldly matters, or in the language of the Gemara, amal sicha, toiling in words, in the conversation, is the aveda from birurim. This is when a person is relating and conversing with the world itself to elevate the mundane matters of the world, to find in them their holy spark and meaning to connect to Hashem. So mevarer o mezachach zayin di inyonei ha'olam, to refine and purify worldly matters, befrat, specifically through one doing everything, his own personal actions for himself, but for the sake of heaven. in all your ways that you travel, it should be for the sake of the knowledge of Hashem. This is why it's referred to as mili d'alma, because this is where the person is engaging with the world, bringing godliness into matters of the world. This is the kind of aveda in the world that a person brings the world to exist and be sustained by this aveda, bringing the creation of the Eibishter creating the world every single moment. That is what Rabbi Yossi was thinking of in the middle of this time when the whole group, the holy group with Rabbi Shimon Vayakhel were learning. So now, as explained before, this is something which is related to Rabbi Yossi's level of his Aveda, the Tzarchei Tzibur that he was involved in, to elevate the world, and therefore this was something that for him was appropriate. Aber von deswegen, nevertheless, is das nicht be'erech zu dem Minyan von Amal Teira. This level of Amal Sicha, which is part of the purpose of creation of the neshama here in this world, but still it does not come to the level of toiling and learning, which is the conclusion of the Gemara. That's on a much higher level. Ubefrat Seidis v'Razei Teira, and especially here dealing with Rabbi and his holy group, which were learning and discussing the secrets of Teira. Because even though as durich Amal Sicha b'Toiv Getan the Kiyam Ha'ilam Ha'idei Asarim Amoris, this does bring about the existence to sustain this world through drawing down the revelation of Hashem's 10 utterances that created this world. Unachmer, an additional point about this. The kavane von Yeridis HaNeshama Lamata is, what is the purpose of the neshama coming here into this world? Nit l'saken atzma. It's not for its own sake. Nor l'saken aguf v'nefesh ha'bahamis v'chelkoi ba'olam. The purpose is to deal with his physical body, to elevate his physical body, the animal soul, and more, the portion in the world that the person has a connection to and has a relation with. Und durch der Aveda, Avedas HaBirurim, it's this Aveda of Amal Sicha, führt sich beikir ois die Tachlis, der Tachlis von Brias Ha'elam. It fulfills the purpose of creation. This was Hashem's desire in creation to have a dwelling here below in the lowest elements of the world. So therefore, there's a very tremendous accomplishment in the Amal Sicha, the Avodas HaBirurim, in refining and elevating the mundane matters of the world. Von deswegen, nevertheless, is Amal Teira Hecher von Amal Sicha. The level of godliness that you connect to in Teira is much greater than there is in the Amal Sicha when you're bringing Hashem a level of godliness that's related to the existence of the world. Because this, toiling in Teira, you remove yourself from an existence of the world and you enter into the reality of Teira, Hashem's reality, which is totally higher and removed of this world. This brings a much higher level of godliness into the world. Therefore, there was a lack in the name of Rabbi Yossi, when he was thinking of these worldly matters, meaning relating to the Aveda in the world. Because this is a level down from the ultimate level of connection to Hashem within Teira, in the toil of Teira, which is totally above the existence of the world. This explains why what Rabbi Yossi did was allowed and okay and demanded even of him according to his level, what he was involved in. Yet at the same time, there's a chesed and there's a lack in his name because it's not the ultimate level of connection to Hashem that was happening then through Rabbi and his holy chavraya that Rabbi Yossi was part of. However, to take a deeper look at the story here, is this nit can be a maspik of den was eis chad chaser bach. This is not yet a sufficient explanation for why there was a letter that was missing in you, in Rabbi Yossi's name. And the question here is as follows. The Anhage von Tanoim va'Amiraim is given behesam zu sheirish nishmasam. All of the behavior of the holy Tanoim and Amiraim is all in accordance to the source of their neshama, the purpose of their creation here in this world. Al derech v'yin unser Fall, as explained before regarding our case over here. As das was Rabbi Yossi had mahar given b'mili d'alma. The fact that Rabbi Yossi was thinking of worldly matters is vile. The reason for this is it was based on the sheirish of who he is and where his neshama comes from. The tata is mevaya, as the Rebbe's father explains. Rabbi Yossi is pchinas hamalchus. The source of Rabbi Yossi's neshama comes from the level of malchus. What's malchus? Vazi is the makar of eilam is biyah. Malchus of the world of Atzilus is the last level where things come out, are communicated from the world of Achdus, of Hashem's absolute unity in Atzilus, coming down into a new reality, a place where there's a creation, where there's an entity that exists. That's a source for creation of worlds. In the lower worlds, Bria, Yitzir, and Asiyah. That are created by the 10 utterances that come from Malchus. Malchus is always related to speech, where a person communicates with an other outside of him. So too, the inyan of the Asara Mamoris is Hashem's speech to create the world. That's the source of Rabbi Yossi's neshama. Und der Fahr is sein Aveda in the meaning von Amal Sicha v'Kiyam Ha'olam. So therefore, his main Aveda in this world is in relation to this level, bringing and revealing the level of godliness within the world to refine and bring the Kedusha and the Nitzitz of the Eibishter that's here in Masecha, Drachecha, within the world itself. So now, Vibal, Tashlichus von Rabbi Yossi Bal Meden is the Aveda von Amal Sicha. So since now, the entire shlichus, the whole mission of Rabbi Yossi in this world is this Aveda of Amal Sicha, the toil within, conversation with this world, is take, yes, it's true, as in Amal Teire is da an iligodel legabi Amal Sicha. In the toil of Teire, there's a much higher level that you connect to than the level of Amal Sicha in relation to the world. Val Teire is Hecha von Welt. The reality of Teire is totally removed of this world. Aber, however, wie kann man sagen, how can you say, as to leave them, was Rabbi Yossi have a mahare b'mili da'alme, that because Rabbi Yossi was thinking of these matters in the world in relation to his Aveda and Shlichus in the world, zol veren achesaren in sein Namen, that because of this there would be something lacking in his name. Was the Shema Adam is mechuven zu bechinas nishmasei. The name of a person represents and is in accordance to the real level of what his neshama, the source of his neshama is. Be'ez, as das, is the Aveda v'sus behesim to sein neshama. This is the Aveda that he was doing in this world in accordance to the source of what his neshama is here in this world for. Or b'meila to sein shem. And therefore that also means that this is in his name as well. His name represents this level of what he's on. So the question over here is, how can we say that because Rabbi Yossi did not think of Torah all the time together with the group, and rather he was thinking of something that was related to his unique Aveda, this brought a lack in his unique name that represents his mission in this world. Now this question is al derech wieder bewusste Wort. This is like the very famous saying, B'shem von Rabzusia Anyapole. Rabzusia Anyapole said, as me vet bei ihm nit monnen, it will not be asked of him or demanded of him, Pavasa is nitten der Darge von Tzadikim Gedeilim. Why is his Aveda in this world not compared to or on the level of great holy tzaddikim? Nor favosas and zusya. Rather, the only thing that will be demanded of him is, why aren't you living up to your name, your namesake, and your Aveda in this world? So a person does not have to be concerned of or be occupied with something that may even be in a higher level of him, but it's not his shlichus and his Aveda in this world. There's nothing lacking by the fact that he's doing his mission according to his neshama perfectly. This, and yet another point here about this, Vibal, that's to leave them. Was bei ihm is nicht da, the Ili von der zweite Aveda. Verta chesarim b'shmai, if, like we said before, it would come out here, that because he was lacking in the Amal Torah, which is not his shlichus, but yet, because of this, it brings a lack in his name, is Yera Levovai. This could bring his heart, he feels bad about this, und die Idee wird im Sterren zu Mekayim sein, der Aveda, was ist ihm zugeteilt geworden, besimcha v'tuv levav. And this will disturb him and make it difficult for one to fulfill his own shlichus with a joy and glad heart, knowing that by doing this, he's compromising to some extent to the point that even in his own name, there's something lacking in the letter of his own name by doing his shlichus in this world. So this will take away from the involvement and the simcha that a person has to have in his Aveda. Additionally, in this story here, we have to understand as follows. Why did Rabbi Yossi himself not sense this lack that occurred as a result of him thinking of Mili de Alma that happened in his image or in his name? Bis Rashbi hat ihm gesagt, until Rashbi made him aware of this. And also after Rabbi Yossi then went and enjoyed words of Torah, and then he became complete again, he wasn't aware of this himself. It was only Rashbi that revealed this to him. Why is that so? Why didn't Rabbi Yossi, which was a holy Tana in his own right, why didn't he sense all of this? Okay, so here the Rabbi gives us a deeper explanation based on what we learned before about who Rabbi Yossi was and what his Aveda represents in this world, and what exactly happened over here when there was a letter lacking in his name. There be it in them. So the explanation for this, as he anisenes. This itself, understanding who Rabbi Yossi is, based on what we learned before, this itself is the whole point that gives us the explanation for what happened here. Rabbi Yossi mitzad atzmai. Rabbi Yossi as an individual to himself. Das heißt, Leut wie sein Aveda darf sein mitzad sein shayrish neshama. His Aveda, according to the source of where his neshama comes from, is sein Hirur b'mili dalme nit gewen kein chesaron. So him thinking of worldly matters in accordance to his Aveda in this world is not any lack at all. V'adarabe, kanal, on the contrary, as explained before, sein Aveda ubemele de yukna yishmai, his own personal service, and his image, his name, is given b'shleimus, was absolutely complete in the Aveda that he did. Those was also dann gefällt in him. The fact that there was some lack in him was not in him as an individual. Is given be'inyonoi als einer von chavrayet Rashbi. This was as far as his participation and being part of the holy group of Rashbi. Rashbi als teirasai nasai kidlakamon. And Rashbi, which represents learning Torah non-stop, where your profession is only Torah and you have nothing else going on in your life, as will be explained soon regarding Rashbi. So at that time, when he was part of the holy group of Rab Shimon ben Yochai, as participating in with the holy group of Rab Shimon ben Yochai, so then he should be on the level of the rest of the group. So he should have been then together with them on their level, even though this is not his shlichus personally. His shlichus is totally complete and b'shleimus when he does his aveda in relation to the existence of the world. On the far hadafke Rashbi, which is Rosh Chavraye, so it's only Rashbi. He is the head of this entire group. Only he was the one that was able to recognize this lack in the letter of the name of Rabbi Yossi in relation to participating in the group of Rashbi, which Rashbi is the head of. When the chesaron is danach nishlam geworden, and then when that lack in his name in relation to his participation in the group was then filled in again, only Rashbi is the one that realized this. Rabbi Yossi himself, in the fact that he was Mahar and Mili Dalma, as an individual, as far as his Aveda, was perfect. That's what was demanded of him, and he was focused on his Aveda. But though at this time, when he was involved together with the group, so over here, Rashbi was demanding of Rabbi Yossi that he should act in accordance to the level of the group, which is Teirasai Yamnasai. And Rashbi is the one that points out how Rabbi Yossi is doing in relation to his participation here with this holy group that's on a much higher level. Das verstehen, leitem was the Alter Rebbe bringt up in Hilchos Talmud Torah. So this matter here can be understood according to what the Alter Rebbe brings out in Hilchos Talmud Torah regarding every single yid. As kol nefesh, every single person, tzricha litikuna, in order to rectify and elevate your soul in learning Torah in this world, lasik bepardes kifi mashiach chayla lahasik, should be occupied in learning all different ways of understanding, all different approaches of understanding Torah. That's pshat, remez, drush, and seid, as much as it's possible for this neshama to understand. It's impossible for a neshama to be fully rectified and complete, bilti yidiyazu, without having the full knowledge that it's possible for this nefesh, this person here in this world, to have. That's the obligation of every single yid. And the Alter Rebbe goes down further and says, somebody that was lazy and did not invest all the effort to understand everything possible that he can in all levels of understanding Torah, and he only learned a little. He has to come back to this world. The soul will be reincarnated again in this world. Until he'll come to understand and grasp everything that's possible for his neshama to understand in the knowledge of Torah. This is the obligation of every single yid. Now, wie is der Inyan, ob der was lernt ma'at, is this nit mitzad atzlas. What is going to be the story with an individual that only learns a little, but not as a result of laziness? Nor val pitayre is a potter from Talmud Torah, but rather it's according to Torah that he has a reason why he's exempt of learning more Torah. Sagt Alter Rebbe in Torah Oyer, as in dem Fall ken sein zwei Fanen. That when this happens, when a person is busy with different things, and therefore al pi Torah, he does not have to use all of his capacity of his soul to learn and invest in all the different ways of learning Torah. So there could be two possibilities of why this is so. Aleph, das gufe is a hira, the fact that this person al pi Torah does not have to learn as much. So this itself is a sign as sein neshama is not shaykh zu mehr. That his neshama can't do more. And therefore it's not necessary for him to learn and understand more Torah. And therefore this neshama comes to its complete level of learning Torah, even with this little learning that it does. Bizafilu could even be to the degree, for the bare minimum from Perek Echad Shachris, when one learns at least one Perek in the morning, or Perek Echad Avris, and one Perek of learning in the evening. So that's one possibility. Beis, another possibility is, that is Isaac B'Torah Kol Ma She'efshalai, since this individual is learning as much as it is possible for him to learn in his time that he has, is Yashlam Loi HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Eibishter will complete for him the other part of his learning that he couldn't do on his own. Das was kommt, kommt, und hat es nicht bekommen durch Limudei, was Sagas HaTorah. This that he really should be accomplishing, but he couldn't because of lack of time, or he was busy with other things. The Eibishter will be the one that will complete this for him. That's the two options that will happen to such a kind of individual. So to explain these two options that Alter Rebbe says there, we can possibly say, as bechlalos, generally speaking, this is going to depend on why is it that this person cannot learn and spend so much time in learning Torah. If the case over here is because this person is busy according to Torah and everything that's permissible in matters of his parnasa, of making a livelihood for him, for his family, those are his own personal needs. Is das hayra? So the fact that this is his lifestyle and this is his needs personally, so this is a sign as ein neshama gehert nit zu mare Torah, that his neshama is not in the category of those masters of Torah that have to spend a lot of time learning, nor zu mare uvdin tovin. He belongs to those that are in the category of the masters of good deeds, and therefore the Eibishter designs it so in his own personal lifestyle that his needs and his parnasa that he has to work for does not give him time, does not allow him to spend so much time in learning. His neshama is not so much on that level where it could learn and grasp and understand Torah. Und der Fall ist für ihn genug der Limud der Torah von Perek Echad Shachris or Perek Echad Avris. So for such an individual, it would be enough, the minimum of learning, and even to the point of just one Perek in the morning and one Perek in the evening. Aber ist gewähnt von Numen behetter weil pi Torah. Mit den Jahren von anderen Tzedakah v'chayetze bezeh. If, however, the fact that this individual gets involved with matters that take away his time from learning, and it's not matters that are regarding the lifestyle of his own personal life, his own personal needs. Rather, it's because he got involved in being there for others, helping others, whether in tzedakah or anything similar. Ubefrat, as mentioned before, regarding Rabbi Yossi, tzorchei tzibur, taking care of matters for the people, for the public. It pushes off Talmud Torah because of the good and the benefit of the public. Damalt, over here the case is different. This is not an indication that this person is not really personally on a level that he can't learn more Torah and his neshama has to rectify and fulfill the learning of Torah on a higher level. So he's still lacking though, because he's pushing off his learning for the sake of others. In this case, Damalt is das an Anoifen. What happens here is, as the Eibishter is mashlim, das was es fällt, und bekommt durch Limude Vasagas HaTorah. Was empfällt in Bakumen durch Limude Vasagas HaTorah. Hashem will fill in for him this that he is lacking, that he should have gained through his own learning in Torah. Because really his neshama is at a level that he could learn more and he should learn more. But he's just dedicating himself to others. So over here Hashem makes up for this, and in his learning, Hashem will bring him an extra kayach to be able to learn and understand in Torah much more. And this includes also this that's described in the following manner, as benchtim mitatzlachem merube and limud Torah. Hashem will bench this individual that's taking care of others and dealing with the public, that'll see a tremendous success in his learning. Und als Azman muet tut in Torah das was al derech haragel darf gedeiren a ribbis man. And in a very short time of learning, he'll be able to accomplish in his learning as much as it usually would have to take a very long time. Al derech v'yashtet in Yerushalmi. This is similar to what it says in the Yerushalmi. B'negei tzachsidim arishayim v'sayishayim mispalim tes shoyes bayayim, regarding the early chassidim that would daven and would spend 9 hours a day in davening. So the Gemara there asks, so when did they have any time for learning? As ayidei shehoy chassidim ha'isebracha nitenes b'toyrasam. Because they were so pious and holy in their davening, there was a special blessing in their learning. They're able to learn, and they would understand immediately and quickly everything that they learned, not like it would normally be with the work and the toil that goes into learning. And as the Alter Rebbe says regarding one that's involved in giving tzedakah and providing for others, that a person's mind and heart becomes purified and is able to pick up the words of learning Torah 1,000-fold times more than it would be usually. That's the level of a person where really he could learn Torah on a much higher level, b'mitzad his neshama. However, because of the fact that he's occupied in Inyanei Ha'olam, dealing with people, with tzarchei tzibur, with tzedakah, so over here, Hashem is mashlim for him that level that his neshama could accomplish in his learning of Torah. And it's this second level here, as the Rebbe will explain, relates to what Rabbi Yossi was and who Rabbi Yossi what he was doing here in this world. So based on this, we could explain now the story here in the Zaya. Das was Rashbi hatte zen, as by Rabbi Yossi felt an Eis von seinem Namen. The fact that Rashbi was the one that sensed this, that Rabbi Yossi was missing a letter in his name, when during their learning he was thinking of his Aveda in relation to matters of tzarchei tzibur in the world. Coming back again to what the Rebbe's father explains regarding what letter was missing in his name, as thus is the Ois Yud from Yossi. This refers to the letter Yud of the name Yossi that was missing in his name. Was is Kenegedem Yud from Shem Avaya. And that Yud in Rabbi Yossi's name is corresponding to the letter Yud in Hashem's holy name of Yud Kei Vav Kei. Was is Meir and Atzilus. This is the letter Yud which shines and is dominant in the world of Atzilus. Yud is Chachmeh, the absolute bittul and unity of Hashem, which is revealed in Atzilus. And an Avedis Adam is das Tarinyin von Amal Torah. The Yud represents the toiling in Hashem's Torah, where you get elevated totally out of the existence of the world into Atzilus. Or Befrat, say this Torah. More specifically here, where they were learning the secrets of Torah. But as Hecher von Amal Sicha, as explained before, this is a level completely above the toiling within conversation relating to the world. The Asaram Amoris, which is Maka Elam is Biyah, the 10 utterances that Hashem creates and is the source for the existence of the lower worlds, Bri, Yitzir, and Atziyah. Das is in Yoni for Rashbi. This is the level of Rashbi, Teirasa Yom Nasai Rashbi. The concept of being dedicated to learning Torah every single moment of the day is not just learning Torah as opposed to engaging with matters of the world, but we're talking over here about learning Torah on a level where the existence of the world is totally insignificant. When one is elevated into a world of Atzilus, into the Yud of Yud Kei Vav Kei in the world of Atzilus. That's the real concept of Teirasa Yom Nasai. Unmarei Razi Torah. And additionally, Rashbi and his holy group being the masters not only of Torah in general, but masters of learning the secrets of Torah. So Rashbi sensed that letter was lacking in Rabbi Yossi's name. So this was a sign and an indication to the fact as it's that now, even though Rabbi Yossi was busy with tzarchei tzibur, and this is something which was totally demanded and right for him, it's not his mission in this world. But the fact that at this moment this caused a lack in his name, what was that a sign of? As Rabbi Yossi, again, as it fadet sich, that now what's demanded is, as Rabbi Yossi is a laribbegain from Zayin Aveda b'mili da'alma. So Rashbi pointed out to Rabbi Yossi what he saw, and that he took that as a sign that now it's demanded of Rabbi Yossi to go over from his usual Aveda, which was totally demanded of him in worldly matters, and now instead he should dedicate his time in the toil of Torah on the level of Rashbi and his group of Teirasa Yom Nasai being totally dedicated to Torah. So yeah, what Rabbi Yossi did on his level was totally okay. But now, at this moment, though, Rashbi sensed the fact that he was lacking a letter of this and his name means that there was something different in this time period. At this time period, it was demanded of Rabbi Yossi that he should now join the group, and as one of the group, be dedicated on their level to Teirasa Yom Nasai. Now, what is it exactly that Rashbi sensed that there was a special opportunity even for an individual like Rabbi Yossi, that usually his Aveda is in relation to the world. So what was this special opportunity that Rashbi sensed and saw by this, that he saw the fact that there was a letter lacking in his name? So this is connected to the point that the Rebbe said before here regarding those that are Oisik b'tzarchei tzibur, that Hashem comes and is mashlim for them their learning of Torah. So we can say possibly even more than the point that we just said here, based on what we learned before, because it was at that moment that there was a unique, auspicious time for learning Torah. As in limud Torah in dem zman wird sein kam upon him kacha. That this was a time where Rabbi Yossi can learn, and with his learning at this time, he'll accomplish many times more than usual to be able to make up for all that time that he was dedicated for the people, for the public. That nishlam werden als was gedarft, and this will complete everything that he needed to be completed in his learning, bakumen, the gedarf bakumen, that is, what he had to have accomplished, durch limudai v'hasagas ha-Torah, through his learning and understanding Torah. In that site, and it'll make up for this time that he was doing what he had to do, according to the mission of his neshama in this world, thinking and engaging with matters of the world. But Rashbi sensed by what he saw that now is the time. Now it's an opportunity where Rabbi Yossi has to go over to join the group and be on the level of Teirasayim Nasai, to be able to make up. This is the special time that Hashem will give him a bracha to make up, kam upon him kacha, for what he was missing, for the fact that he was Eisig b'tzarchei tzibur. And as this actually happened afterwards, as durch them was come Rabbi Yossi v'chadi b'milim d'iraisa. Through this, that Rabbi Yossi got up and was joyous in these words of Torah, is gevarin wie Rashbi hat ihm gesagt, and this accomplished, as Rashbi then told him, anshlim, that you are now complete in his level of learning now, v'diyuk noch shlim, and your image is complete. The yesh lefarish, based on what we explained before, we could now say shleimus betachlis. This is an absolute completeness, not only for now, that he was now joining the group, but oich dem over mashlim gewen. This also came and took care of the past, as was explained before regarding a person that his neshama really has the capacity to learn much more Torah, but he's being oisik b'tzarchei tzibur, and therefore he's not accomplishing as much, and he's potter, he doesn't have the time to learn. But nevertheless, Hashem gives him opportunities where he will be able to learn, and he'll then have a tremendous success in his learning at those moments, and it'll make up for all the past, of the times that he couldn't learn. And this is what was accomplished over here with Rabbi Yossi when he got up then and was joyous in learning Torah.